that's a good segue into the MTA tax. The MTA tax, 2 years ago, the MTA had a budget surplus of over $1 billion. Now, all of a sudden, 2 years later, they're pushing, the number changed all the time, but $1.7 billion in the red. And in operating costs, not even counting what they say they need for capital infusion of monies to keep, for expansion and improvements. But I thought that particular tax on the Mid-Hudson region was discriminatory. It was inequitable. It was unfair. And in Orange County, when we did our analysis, less than 4% of the people used the buses and trains to New York City. And to impose this tax on every not-for-profit, on our schools, on our hospitals, on our small businesses, was punitive. And I really basically accused the Senate Democrats on the floor of showing city bias. I don't think that pain was spread fairly and evenly. When New York City small businesses whose employees use the subways and the buses have to pay the MTA tax, we that don't use the system, why should our employers and employees have to pay the same tax? And I thought it was the most outrageous tax. And when city travelers who live and work in the city have a Metro card, and it goes from $81 a month to $89 a month, and you're hitting small businesses with 34 cents per thousand or per hundred, totally unfair. And they're not done yet, Annie. No, they're saying they want more money for capital. Yes. And as a result of this budget and that MTA tax, this not-for-profit national tax code has said that the state of New York, to do business for small business, is number one for most hurtful. Right. And so I keep saying, why would small businesses stay here?
So difficult.
Right. They're mobile. They can pick up and leave. And same with our individual residents here and our citizens. And there seems to be a disconnect in Albany with the governing and their economic policies and this imposition of taxes and the hurt that it does on our New York State economy.
Right. We're not a healthy state. Years ago, we were a healthy state. We're not healthy. We're not business friendly, and we show it here every day in Albany with the legislation that we create, not myself, not yourself, but the governing body and the Democratic Party. The legislation that they're creating is not helping any business. Again, it's a tax, a fee. When we talk about the MTA, most of the residents that live in Orange and Rockland would love to use mass transportation. They can't. They're policemen, they're firemen, nurses, laborers, sanitation. They work 10, 12-hour days. There's no trains to come home at night. They have to drive. A real plan would have been an incentive to make sure that people could use mass transportation, more transportation through our districts, less cars in the city, absolutely. That would be an incentive. But there's no incentive. So now really, it's just going to cost more money to go into New York. I drove from my home in Greenwood Lake to Yonkers the day after the MTA tax was passed. $20 in gas and $5 in tolls. I would have loved to take a train to Yonkers from my home. Who would not pay a little more to take mass transportation? Sure. And I don't think anybody in New York City would have even blinked an eye for them not to have an increase.
The last thing I want to make, a point I want to make, is if we had checks and balances, in our Senate, we have 30 Republicans and 32 Democrats. If we didn't lose the majority, we wouldn't have had this onerous budget. We would never had the MTA tax. We need checks and balances. And to have everybody from New York City, pretty much the senators, is a bias that hurts all of upstaters. Annie, I want to thank you for being with me today.
Thank you, Senator. My
We'd love
pleasure.
to have you back.
Thank you very much.
Bye.